Hello and welcome to another Orange Coast College mathematics video. In this video, we're going to learn to solve quadratic equations via the factoring method. Now before we begin, I'm going to assume that you know how to factor a quadratic polynomial. Now, the way that we solve quadratic equations using factoring is through the application of what's called the zero product property. And what that says is that if I have two numbers, a and b, so a and b just represent numbers, and if I multiply them together, and that product is 0, the only way this can happen is that if a equals 0 and b equals, or b equals 0. Okay, if you have this product is 0, one of the two factors must be 0. That's the only way you can get a product of 0. Now, I want to point out a common mistake students will make is that they'll say, say a times b equals 5, and they'll say, well, then a has to be 5 or b has to be 5, but that's not the case. 0 is the only number for which this is true, where if you have a product of two numbers equals 0, then one of them has to be 0. We begin with an example. Now, when we want to solve a quadratic equation by factoring, we have to move all of the terms to one side of the equation. So all of the non-zero terms are on the left-hand side, and we have a 0 on the right-hand side. We're going to want to do this for all of these problems when we want to solve them by factoring. Now, this is a relatively straightforward one to solve. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give me -2, and add together to give me -1, the coefficient of x. That, of course, is going to be -2 and +1. So this will factor into x minus 2 times x plus 1, and that will be equal to 0. And now we have a product, right? We have two factors here, x minus 2 and x plus 1. When I multiply those two numbers together, I get 0, which means one of them has to be 0. So we start either with x minus 2 has to be 0, or x plus 1 has to equal 0. And so for the first equation, we can add 2 to both sides, and we get x equals 2. Or for the second one, we can add -1 to both sides, and we will get x is -1. So that is your solution. X is either 2 or -1. Either of those values will solve this equation. You can always check your work to make sure you did it correctly. Example 2. Now, as we mentioned in the previous example, we always want to start by moving all terms to one side of the equation when we want to solve by factoring. So this can be rewritten as x squared plus 6x plus 9 equals 0. And to factor this, we just noticed that 3 times 3 is 9 and 3 plus 3 is 6. So this will factor into x plus 3 squared. And since I have x plus 3 squared, right, that means either x plus 3 or x plus 3 must be 0. So from this, we get that x plus 3 must be equal to 0. So we subtract 3 from both sides, and we see that x must be -3. Here's our final example. Now again, all of our terms are on the left-hand side of the equation. We have a 0 on the right-hand side, so we're ready to factor. We can factor this using the AC method, which means we take the coefficient of x squared, 2, and multiply it by the constant coefficient, which is -3. That gives us -6. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to give me -6 and add together to give me +5. And what we'll do, that will be +6 and -1. So we rewrite this. We split up the 5x into 6x minus x minus 3 equals 0. So we've only rewritten the equation and just changed the 5x into 6x minus x. And now I'm going to factor from the GCF from these two terms and the GCF from those two terms. And if I do that, I end up with factor out 2x, and I'll be left with x plus 3 here. And from the second two terms, if I factor out -1, it'll leave me with x plus 3. And now I have a common factor of x plus 3 amongst these two terms. So factor out the x plus 3. And we'll be left with 2x from the first term here, and then -1 from the second term. And now I've factored that polynomial, and so I have this this product of two factors equals 0, so one or the other must be 0. So either x plus 3 is 0, or 2x minus 1 is 0. For the first equation, we simply subtract 3 from both sides, and we see that x must be -3. And from the other one, we can just add 1 to both sides. We get 2x equals 1. Divide both sides by 2 to see that x must be 1/2. So your solution is either x is -3 or x is 1/2. They'll both work. You can plug them into that equation to make sure that they work as solutions, but that's it. And that's it for solving equations by factoring. So this is a pretty straightforward technique. You may need to review some factoring skills to really get the hang of it. But once you've mastered factoring, it's the most straightforward way to solving quadratic equations when you can use it. All right, until next time, have fun.